Hello, and welcome to another edition of Coach's Corner, where Coach Serrano, who's still in England at the time, and I speak with college coaches from all over the country. And this is more for information and education for parents, and more importantly, student athletes, so that you can learn a little bit about the different levels of college baseball, as well as bring some things to your attention you may not be familiar with. And one of those topics I get asked about quite a bit is NCAA Division III baseball. Now, I was a head coach at the Division III level for 7 years. It's very prominent throughout the Northeast and New England. And if you were so inclined to look for probably quality academics and athletics with a combination of a small campus Division III, it kind of fits that animal. And today we're joined by one of the elite Division III, NCAA Division III coaches, not only in New England, but throughout the country. Eric Cirella of Salve Regina. Eric, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited.
Well, one of the things I want to get right out there, because it's really, I think you kind of have this niche, so to speak, but you're located in what one might consider to be a pretty prestigious part of the country. So if you can talk a little bit about Salve Regina as a school, but more importantly, where it's located and the draw to that particular area.
Sure. I mean, the brief history is that back at 300-400 years ago, when oil and railroads and stuff like that made people millionaires and billionaires, and these people who lived in New York and Philadelphia basically needed a place to go in the summertime. So they matriculated up to Newport and built these mansions, Gilded Age mansions, if you watch the HBO miniseries. And that's kind of how Newport gained its prominence. And now, being an island and having some of these mansions as our academic buildings, or where admissions is, that's basically our campus. So we have 80, 90 acres on a cliff walk, with 6 mansions are part of Salve Regina. And it's just one of those places where, you catch a nice Friday in September, October, November, and there's hundreds of tourists walking around campus, as well as, the student body, which is about, 2,600, students at this point. So it's really amazing. There's nothing like it. That's all I can say. And you can look at pictures and you can watch videos, but when you're on campus, I think it really takes your breath away.
Well, one of the things, if you compare now, let's go from left coast to right coast. Pepperdine kind of has a very scenic campus and field, proximity to the ocean. Salve Regina, being located in Newport, Rhode Island, it probably mirrors each other with regard to the cliffs and the ocean and the water. So that's got to come in handy a little bit with regard to recruiting. But let's talk about your coaching career, specifically at Salve,
Sure.
Because you can't mention Division III baseball without mentioning Salve Regina, because year after year, it seems as if you are at least contending not only for an NCAA regional, but also conference championships.
Yeah, and stuff like that takes time. This is 10 years in. What it looked like when I walked in day one and what it looks like now is completely different. And I think the first thing is, when you're young and you think you have it all figured out, you're like, all right, get out of my way. I'm going to work, and I got every drill in the book, and I'm going to out recruit you, and I'm going to outwork you, and I'm going to outthink you. And in some regards, you can do that, but it's only going to take you so far. And I think as we got going and started to add to the infrastructure and the facilities and start to make a name for the program, you realize that you need to surround yourself with really good people. So, first and foremost, I have an elite assistant, Andrew McKeon, who is great at everything that I'm not. We really complement each other well, and he does the pitching and obviously a lot of the recruiting. But he's a rock star, and you're going to see him. You're going to see him in the Division I level, I think, at some point, because he's that good and he works that hard. But you have guys like that and other coaches that I have and people who have really helped to bring really good talent and develop players. And that's where we're at right now. I mean, I don't want to say it gets easier, but I think it's kind of like a well-oiled machine right now, and everything, when you have stability with coaches. I mean, you see it at like the University of Connecticut and their staff. They're outstanding. And why? Because they've year after year after year, they're back again. And that continuity makes it a lot easier for the players, for everybody. So I think I've just been fortunate to have a really good staff around me for the last 4 or 5 years. And we've started to take that next step where this past year, we were a number 1 seed in a regional, and we lost two key guys, and added some players to the mix, some Division I transfers and some really good freshmen. And, I think on paper, we're more talented than we were a year ago, but that's why you got to play the games out.
Now, you just touched on a point that I'd like to kind of digress quickly, the portal transfers. Now, us being in New England, we talk about Jimmy Penders at UConn. We can talk ULO, BC, some of the Ivy, some of the Patriots.
Mike Glavin up at
Mike Glavin doing a great job. But talk about that a little bit. A lot of parents always think portal Division I, but the portal has, in fact, helped or played a role with Division III. Would you agree with that?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I think that when you're looking at some of the better Division III schools in the region, whether it's Salve or UMass Boston or Eastern Connecticut or Endicott or Wheaton, Babson, and then you look at some of the mid-major Division I's, I think there's a lot of comparable talent there, and sometimes kids just want an opportunity. They went Division I. They were middle bottom of the totem pole, but had been recruited by some of these Division III schools, and want to have a bigger role. And I think that's where Division III baseball comes in. We're not, I don't want to lead you down a path of like, hey, we're a portal school, because to be honest with you, we try to use the portal as, what are we missing? And if we can just add piece A and piece B to the puzzle, I think it puts us in a really strong position. So there might be a year you're looking for a lefty bat or, a back end bullpen piece or something. And this year it was just, if we could add a couple of arms and maybe a veteran bat with a small freshman class, I think we can really be special. And, we were lucky to add a couple guys who I think are going to come out and make a big impact this year for us.
Well, I always try to stress to parents that the levels of college baseball does not necessarily reflect the caliber of play. More along the lines of Division III is more of your academic student athlete or athlete that has some academic acumen and really aspires to kind of combine both. From a time perspective, Division II, Division I, the differences are depth. I can remember when Eddie Flaherty would have Southern Maine. I would always ask him, could you compete with Orono? Can you compete with? Absolutely. The biggest word that we're missing is depth, where they can roll out a staff of guys. I might have 3 or 4 of those guys. But I would love for you to talk about some of the teams within your conference, and a little bit about your recruiting, because as we talked about before we went live here, is you do some recruiting in New Jersey, obviously New England, but what's your roster look like as far as regions of the country?
Sure. I mean, first and foremost, we We're mostly New England, but then we have I'd say maybe 20% is from New Jersey, New York. You might get a Delaware or Florida or something like that. And it's really the pockets and the programs that, are excited about Salve. I mean, I have no problem convincing a kid to come visit and telling them, look, if you come up here and you don't like it and you don't like what we have to say, we'll never bother you again. I promise. I mean, that's how this program was started, because 10 or 12 years ago, nobody knew Salve Regina baseball in Bergen County or anywhere in New Jersey.
Right.
And now it's, I talk to coaches all the time and they're like, I was just at a game and there were 4 different parents and kids talking about you. So, we're looking for those fringe Division I guys. I mean, if you look at the 50 or 60 kids we met with over the summer and into the fall, 90% of them were looking at a Sacred Heart, a UMass, a Fordham, Monmouth, a Siena, a Bryant, maybe. They were invited to a camp. They talked with the coaches. It fizzled. They're waiting. They're on a list. And that's, I think that's the nice thing about being at our level is I've coached at the Division I level, and you're trying to project kids out 3 years from where they are. Here, at least it's closer to a year and a half. And it's a little bit easier, and you can get some of these kids that kind of are maybe late bloomers, that a BC or a Northeastern or whomever, they're going to pass on because they're already finished with their class and they're moving on to the next class. So we're not looking for Division III players. I have Division I players on my roster. I mean, we have 6 or 7 guys already placed in the NECBL next year because, quite frankly, I think they're Division I pitchers or players. They just, for whatever reason, want to come here and develop, because we all know you don't get better by watching somebody else play. You get better by actually playing. So
I think that's the benefit of Division III, to be perfectly honest with you. And I tell parents all the time, as a Division III head coach, I never sat with a student athlete who said, I can't wait to go to Division III. Everybody aspires to play baseball at its highest level, but the key word there, the operative word there, is play. And participating, during those college years, which for the most part, I think you might agree with this, tend to be the final years of, a student athlete's career within a team sport as it pertains to baseball. So it's really important to find a school that kind of allows you to grow, mature mentally, physically, because it's your final frontier of being a kid,
Sure.
before the, adulthood kicks in. But you touched on another point that I think a lot of parents don't have enough information on, was when you said the NECBL, the New England Collegiate College Baseball League. That was started many years ago by a gentleman by the name of Harry Ayotte. I don't know if you remember Harry, but
Yeah.
Harry's vision was to get more New England kids, that the Cape might not have been favorable to, and created another league. And so talk about summer baseball.
Sure.
Do you have a fear if I send one of my guys out? Because I don't know if you remember the kid from St. Joe's.
Oh yeah, Charlie Furbush he was my age, I think.
Right. So I coached
against
against him at Becker, and I remember they sent him down to the Cape, and all of a sudden, boom, he's going to LSU. Now, do you think about that type of stuff when you send your guys out?
Sure. So the short answer is, like, it's always in the back of your mind. I think the way we do it is, we have a good relationship with some NECBL teams, some Futures League teams, Perfect Game League, NYCBL, Mink League. I mean, there's 6 or 7 leagues that we know the coach, the GM, we're comfortable with, you're the best player. You're not playing every single night. You're not getting burnt out. And they're going to have your back. So I think, and what I tell kids is, look, there's a lot of coaches that don't place all their best players because they are afraid of that. I think if you play a year in our program, experience the culture, and you go to college in Newport, Rhode Island, you're not going to want to leave. Now, if you graduate and you have years of eligibility left, then by all means, I'm all for it. We had, Dominic Parachi was drafted in the 11th round a year ago, and that's a kid that was 79, 83 his freshman year, in through development and placing him in summer collegiate leagues and stuff like that, was able to get his name on the board and get drafted. Andrew Roman was the closer for Boston College last year, a Boston College team that was like this close to hosting a regional potentially. And, in a lot of ways help catapult Coach Gambino, Coach Vance in their careers. A guy like Andrew Roman, Chris Flynn from Roger Williams University. I think there was a pitcher or two from Babson on that team. And, so you got 3-4 Division III guys that, helped an ACC school, make a name for themselves and have one of their legendary seasons. So, but back to your question, we want our guys playing against the best. We're recruiting that kid with a chip on his shoulder who, we say, look, we think we can develop you. And then 2 or 3 years from now, that kid who everybody's all about, but we think you can be better than, we're going to give you an opportunity to show that you're actually better than him. And that kid with that chip on his shoulder who's getting overlooked, who is going to work his tail off, at practice and in the gym and doing all the right things. I think those are the kids you win with at this level. And so that's why it's important for us to try and place everybody that we possibly can. And especially, our elite guys, because we want them to get notoriety in all league and, be all stars in the summertime and stuff.
Let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk Salve Regina as a school, and let's talk about campus size, undergraduate size, maybe some of the majors that people gravitate to when they apply to Salve.
Sure. The majority of the guys in our team are business or some sort of criminal justice, homeland security, cybersecurity, and obviously within business, marketing, finance, accounting, management. But it's a liberal arts school. So you have biology and environmental sciences and psychology. And there's 10 guys with random majors on the team. So you're not forced to, it's always a little bit strange to me when a 17-year-old knows what he wants to do with the rest of his life. Right. Because I sure as heck don't. And, we find ways as baseball people to reinvent ourselves. So I think it should be soothing to know that you don't have to know what you want to be, and you can take some classes and figure it out as you get a little bit older. College size, the nice benefit too is that it's 70% female because we don't have engineering. So if you're looking for engineering, I can't help you. Unfortunately, there's some really good engineering schools now in the NUMAC that scares me a little bit, but you can't have it all. You can't be in Newport and have engineering and have 70% females and stuff like that. So, but that's kind of the male-female breakdown. And, it's like that because the nursing and education are heavily populated with females. And, as far as the school, we've been in the CCC since that conference started in the late or in the 90s. And now this is our first year in the NUMAC. So I'm really excited to transition from playing, great coaches like Coach Gomez at Western New England, Coach Haley at Endicott, and, Kevin Kelly over at Roger Williams, to now Coach Podbelski, who's, to me is on the Mount Rushmore of college coaches at any level. And Matt Noon, and we got a couple of the Casey brothers in our conference now. So it's, it's exciting that it's some new faces, and I'm sure some new rivalries will emerge, but it's kind of a unique thing that you see at the Division I level, switching conferences and conference realignment, and now it's happening at the Division III level. And to me, that being associated with MIT and WPI and Coast Guard and Babson, is only enhancing the academic reputation of the university. So it's a good thing. I mean, competition is good. I don't want to go into a doubleheader knowing we should win. I think that's, that's not fun. That's not what gets us out of bed, and that's not what inspires us to do great things. I think this competition is going to do great things for the university as a whole, across the board, for every sport.
Well, we talked to Coach Casey, John Casey, and we talked to his three sons. I know that's a coaching family or fraternity all amongst themselves. And so that's kind of like baseball royalty between the NESCAT, all these conferences in the New England area are extremely strong. When we talk Eric and Wheaton and Babson, and we start talking about Matt Noon, I mean, these are people that have been encased and engrossed in Division III baseball for many, many years. And so if you are in the Midwest, if you are West Coast, down Southeast, these are the types of schools that are very enticing because of the undergraduate campus size, but their location is phenomenal. Just Google or go on YouTube and type in Newport, Rhode Island, for those of you that aren't familiar with the cliffs and the estates and the mansions located within Newport. And then you start talking about proximity to Providence and Boston. So it really offers a potential student athlete, a wonderful 4 or 5 years of college. Sure. For those people, Eric, that want to reach out to you directly, give us, how do you like to be contacted? Social media, email? How do people want to reach out to?
Yeah, I mean, I think email's best. I can't guarantee that, we want to see you. We really do want to see you play. I think the recruiting. I think there's a lot of there's a lot of different messages to kids nowadays. And I think for us, we do want to see you play. And I think we could suffice with, here's some video footage. Maybe we get you to a camp. But we want to talk to people who want to see you play. And I think just reaching out by email is the best thing. It gets more and more competitive. I mean, we're finishing up earlier and earlier. Obviously, the better that you do, the more kids are reaching out, and that's a good thing. But it's also, you got to kind of sift through everything as well and find the guys that you're looking for. And I'm always going to be honest. I'll tell you a quick story. I mean, years back, the Bosco kid, who's now at Northeastern, full-time coach over there. I mean, he was a great catcher for Roger Williams. And when he was coming into college, he really wanted to come to Salve. And I thought we had a lot of depth at that position. And I tried to be really honest with him and his dad. And lo and behold, he's a senior, and we're playing against him in the conference championship. And I talked with his father, and he was really happy, and it worked out for him. He found his own home and his own great friends, and had a ton of success. Obviously, I wanted to rewind 5 years and take the kid because he's a stud. But I find that, right or wrong, if you're just honest with people, the people who understand baseball and have a big heart will understand. They're going to get it. And I mean, we're talking about a sport where first round picks don't make it to the major leagues. I mean, this is really, really difficult stuff, and you just have to trust the system that you have, what you're looking for with pitchers, position players, second baseman, outfielders, whatever the case is, and stick to that if you're successful. And you're going to be wrong, but I think if you're honest with kids and their families, then I can at least sleep at the end of the night. I'm not going to make a promise to somebody that I can't keep. So I think that's how we do it. We work really hard, and we talk about it, and we have some metrics, but more so the things that we're looking for. And we try to stick to our laurels and give people honesty.
Well, that I know about you, and you've built a tremendous program at Salve Regina. And I, first of all, want to say thank you very, very much for both your patience and your time. I think this is invaluable for families and student athletes. you know, and one of the things that you're getting here, if you're really paying attention here, is Eric's extremely honest. He's extremely diligent. Really doesn't miss as much as he may have just led us to believe. He's very candid, but he's always going to be very forthright with you as family and as a student athlete, which is really what you're ultimately seeking. You know, if you're aspiring to play college baseball, NCAA Division III is a wonderful resource, tremendous opportunity, both academically and athletically. And more importantly, you will meet lifelong friends in a tremendous part of the country here in New England. So, Eric, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And I will make sure that all of your information for parents, all of the contact information for Salve, for Coach Cirella, everything will be in our video so that you can reach out directly to Eric. Thank you so much again, Eric.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, Captain.